Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man episodes 3, 4, and 5. I'm very excited. So let's talk about it. All right, welcome back, Event. So we're talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and the reason I'm very excited is because one, we got an extra episode today. They released two last week. We actually got three this week. So I'm excited about that, as well as the pieces are coming together. Like it's making more and more sense as far as how they're doing the story and the stuff that they're referencing. So it's not necessarily clear which timeline and stuff they're in, but how they're operating is, of course, with alternate characters, gender swapped characters, or whatever the case may be. But it's still a pretty compelling story as far as like the build up for one of the biggest character turns that we're kind of waiting on. So let's get into it. First episode is a secret identity crisis. We knew Osborn found out that Peter was Spider-Man due to a secret hallway camera that only he monitors. So basically, he ends up making an offer to help Peter. So he rents out a restaurant. So they sit down and have a conversation. It's like, I would like to do what I can to help you because he wants to create a better class of hero, a better superhero, and just, do more. And with that being said, he's willing to offer Peter whatever he needs to make his stuff better. Peter initially declines, and even though he declines and is ready to give up his Osborn internship, Osborn says, "I still take care of people. If that's not what you want to do, I completely understand." These are that. It's like I'm still going to compensate you for the time that you did spend at the internship, which was one day. Writes him a check for $1,000. That with that, of course, also feeding him because Peter, as much energy as he burns, he eats a lot, and he ate a whole lot of food during that sit down meeting. So this was a good way to ingratiate himself within Peter's sensibilities and be like, yo, I'm showing you I'm a good guy, I'm taking care of you. But if you know anything about Norman Osborn, he's going to do whatever he can to get what he wants. That's kind of one of his focuses. So he leaves it at that. Peter decides, looks like he's still debating about it, but he does take the check and leave and ends up going home to talk to May, who was getting ready to get rid of Ben's stuff, having a conversation with her, knowing that he got some money. So with that, I think he was more or less kind of debating on how can he still continue to help May without having to worry about that kind of stuff. But his decision wasn't necessarily made yet. We ended up getting him back at school with Lincoln, and Lincoln was very excited about, hey, the project went great. We got a good grade. Let me buy you lunch. He pays for Peter's lunch, but doesn't have enough to pay for his own. Ends up just getting the apple. This is where we see he has money troubles because again his car was declined, as well as he didn't have enough cash to pay for everything. So he ends up going to sit down with his Apple, ends up getting a call that he needs to go home. So he gets Pearl to take him home, and in the process of that, we find out that his brother Dre has been hanging out with a gang because the police are there, and he then escaped out the house when he was sent to his room to go do whatever. So after comforting his mother, he goes and hunts down, his brother because hey, I got tracking on your phone. You're on a family plan, genius. Goes and sees about him and tells him, "Hey, yo, we got to go." And they're just getting ready to go. Big Don, which is the leader, is like, "Nah, you're not taking one of my people out of here. He's part of the gang. He ain't going nowhere." So that's when Lonnie ends up playing, "All right, let my brother go. I'll take the hit. Me for him." So of course, Big D's just like, "Yo, that's an upgrade in my book because he knows he's a superstar. He knows he's a football player. So it's like this will benefit me very well as opposed to having him who already got caught by the police once." So off with the brother. Lincoln's part of the gang. He's part of the 110th. And that's just the thing that they're going to be dealing with. With that being said, Osborne has been working on basically being Spidey's guy in the chair and doing whatever he can to go through a couple different setups to get him kind of geared up. So basically, he's kind of just doing an overnight thing because Peter has accepted the offer and now he wants to do what he can to help. And Norman was very convincing. So that's just kind of how it goes as far as that goes. And the reason and the way he does this, of course, is because there's two bad guys, two criminals who end up taking this case of money and throwing it in a dumpster or whatever the case may be. And the dumpster crawls and walks away very suspiciously. And they go ahead and go to rob a jewelry store. Norman hacked into Spidey's comms of his suit that he's wearing now, and ends up helping him defeat those guys who had some superpowered gear. One had super speed like leg boots. The other one had like some gauntlets that gave her some strength and had some blades come out of it. But it was obvious to Osborn that they were very new at using their stuff, and he used that knowledge to kind of start figuring them out, and then talk to Peter about what to do, and he was able to defeat them fairly easily once he had an idea of how everything works. He sees the same symbol that was on Hothead, that infinity looking symbol. And as we go on, we see that that symbol's on the boots and on the gauntlets. So after Peter notices that, he's like, "Yeah, you helped me out. So yeah, we're definitely on the team. Welcome to Team Spider-Man." And that's just the way it goes. With that being said, we end up going into the next episode, which is hitting the big time. Basically, Peter's been attempting to do his presentations for the internship and is not very good at it. And of course, we see that, as he's trying to kind of do this and get everything together, he ends up getting summoned to Osborn's office, much to his instructor's, dismay, because it's not him. Uh, Peter's the one that keeps wanting to be seen, and everybody kind of notices it. But Peter goes and talks, and Norman Osborn ends up putting this do not disturb mode on and locks everything down. And it's just like, hey, we end up showing him the news. We end up seeing the Sokovia Accords more or less going into play. Like all the stuff from Civil War, you're kind of seeing. So you actually see the Civil War, you see Captain America, Iron Man kind of having their rift, more or less. We see the airport fight. Everything happened, but it happened without Spider-Man present because this is a different universe that he's in. But certain events that are more or less probably canon events are still taking place throughout the continuity of the story. So this took place without Spider-Man being present. So this is something that no one's concerned about. This is where he talks more about being a better class hero and just trying to do things better. And he's going to take care of Peter when it comes to, of course, every superhero having to identify themselves. He's trying to keep that under wraps, and he's going to do what he can to help that. And again, he's a big wig, so he's going to throw some money at it more likely and see what goes on. But in the meantime, he's like, I need you to try out some different outfits. And basically, he goes through a slew of outfits. Like, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. You see one with a cape. No capes. Straight up, he got tangled up in the cape and ended up getting beat. And that was put all over the internet. So that was great. Link is having to deal with you know, basically getting called to go do work because he's still the newbie stuff as part of the gang. So every time he's trying to get something done, like he's being reprimanded for his studying, he can't kind of get his stuff together. And that's a problem because, again, his schoolwork is suffering. But basically, he ends up going to do whatever pickup that Big Donovan needs him to do, which is from some Mexican restaurant that has some really good burritos. And he goes, sees this girl, Carmela Black, who is there. He says he's there to pick up an order for Big Donovan. Everybody gets antsy. He ends up having to run away after being chased down the street because, come to find out, Carmela Black is part of a team of another gang, which is the Scorpions, which is led by who? The one and only Matt Gargan. So the 110th and the Scorpions obviously are having a turf war back and forth, and Matt Gargan, being the leader, is very, insistent on taking over. So once Leakin knows this, and he's trying to figure out how to, figure this out, you got Osborn who's still trying to make, Spidey's suit better. He ends up making him a failed flying suit that has some kind of like Firefly bug kind of stuff with a built-in gyroscope. He ends up making a black suit that kind of remembers like a bootleg flying squirrel or something like that, and ends up scaring a little girl. Like none of these suits are really working, and in the process, he's again trying to figure out the suit. While all this is going on, we end up getting a new suit, which is more reminiscent of a Future Foundation esque type suit. Again, for more white involved. And Spidey's, a little disappointed because it doesn't have enough red and blue in it because, again, he loves Captain America. But he ends up getting the suit. The suit ends up working out well because it's fireproof to a certain degree. Again, it feels more like him. He's able to do everything he does because in the process of him trying out the suit, we end up finding out there's a robbery where these four people, which is Dimitri, Roxana, Mikhail, and Mila, end up escaping with some stuff. Mila ends up jumping out the car and running off while the other trying to get away, who eventually get caught and locked up in jail. In the process of this, she's like, I need to get some stuff together to be able to break my people out. So she goes to the scheduled drop point and As she's going to the scheduled drop point, Spidey has to go and save people, of course, and that's why he ends up letting the criminals get away. But the cops, that's who got the cops end up catching him. She goes to the drop point and ends up talking to a man who is waiting to help her out, and this is none other than Otto Octavius, which is the symbol, the infinity symbol, which is a double O. Otto Octavius, right there in front of us, and again, he's been making all the suits and tech and whatever case that a lot of these criminals have been using, and he's just kind of giving it out on the street for the highest bidder. Once Spidey, recognizes this with, dealing with the other criminals and, trying to figure out what to do about it, and he comes back to talk to Osborn, guess what? He swings into the building. Hey, this is great. I love it. And doesn't realize that Harry is sitting right there in the room. So now his identity has been revealed to Harry Osborn, who now knows that he is Spider Man. And this was hitting the big time that caused all the problems. It was this episode. And that's just kind of where it leaves off because we find out that Mila, if you know anything about Mila, Milo was Milos Mazarak. This was a character called the Unicorn from back in the day. Basically, the Unicorn was a character who had superhuman strength, like insanely strong, like peak physical athlete. The tissues of the Unicorn's body are a dozen times harder than those of regular humans, making him, in this case Mila, her highly resistant to injury and can exert themselves at top level for a longer period of time before exhausting because their body does not create the like lactic acid, all that kind of buildup, all the stuff that causes fatigue as quickly. So this is a great asset to have and stuff as far as just using your straight abilities, because the only other plus side is the helmet. And we'll get to the helmet in a second because that's what takes place in the next episode, which is the Unicorn Unleashed. Basically, Otto ends up giving Mila a unicorn helmet and explains to her, and she's got a nice little mohawk, so it fits right perfectly and sticking out the helmet, so it's good. But basically, Otto sets her up to go break her friends out of jail because that's what she wants to do. Harry becomes, instead of the man at the chair, he's the dude at the desk, and basically Peter finds out that Harry is really a celeb. That's just kind of, hey, everybody wants to know him because he gets dropped off at school and a very nice car that Harry's driving. Lonnie, who's still dealing with freaking the effects of school life, ends up talking to his coach about missing practice and is having issues. And is like, I'm going to do better, trying to be better about it. I'll do what I can. So as Lonnie's getting ready to start practice and all the guys are kind of making fun of him because he's been gone for a minute, Lonnie gets a call from Donovan like, hey, Scorpions on our turf. We got to deal with it. Show up now. I got people outside waiting for you. If you don't show, they're going to come in there and make a mess. And the guy's name is Bulldozer, so I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a mess. So he has to skip out on practice again to go meet up with Donovan. Now, while he's going to do that, because he's mad, Lonnie is very particular, insistent on not going. But Big Donovan says a very familiar line. I missed the part where that's my problem because he has practice. Very cleverly put in. I like that. But Spidey ends up, going out and just kind of swinging around town, chatting with Harry. He ends up actually coming across a black cat who kind of looks like Black Cat more or less with that. It's a black cat with the white paws and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's an allusion to Black Cat. Felicia Hardy may be joining us sometime in the future because we've got a lot of name drops again with Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor. We've seen Strange. We saw Ant-Man and stuff with the short clip from the Civil War Avengers battle at the airport. We got various other characters and stuff like that, freaking with Amadeus Cho and so that. So we got characters, galore. Like this can turn out to be, a number of different pathways as far as superheroes meeting up and teaming up. So Black Cat is not off the table. So basically, Spidey's swinging around and he finds out that there is a jailbreak going on. You see Unicorn, she done broke everybody out. It was like ready to go. Two of the guys, which is Roxana and Dimitri, they end up like, hey, let's get out of here while we can, while she's kind of doing her thing because she wants to have some fun while she's still there. While Mikhail's like, I'm not going to leave her. She broke us out. And he's very loyal. He's got morals and so like that. Whereas some other people don't. But his morals are very limited. They're within a nice little you know nice little bubble here. So as long as you fit within that bubble, within his morals, like I said, he's not going to leave a person behind. Basically, unicorns kind of going off the chains with that, blasting people with lasers, and this kind of looks like the helmet may enhance a few things, but mainly the lasers are what it is. The lasers are more or less a concussive force, it looks like, because she was blasting several police officers with the lasers. Um, some people have taken hits. Spider-Man took a hit, from the laser and kept going. Whereas a scene later on, we're not so sure if that would have, been, lethal or not. Like that's more or less what we're gonna figure out. We do see a slight wind up on the helmet, kind of reminiscent of Cyclops. Like, hey, I'm setting the beam to power up and do some damage. So more or less, she was using a weak blast to blast people, but it was enough to move cars and break through brick walls very easily. So Spidey and Unicorn end up scrapping, and more or less Unicorn's kind of getting the best of him and utilizing his weakness, you know, civilians and everything else, and trying to blast civilians to kind of throw him off his game and get a hold of him. While that's going on, the gang fight is going down, and Lonnie ends up, just kind of watching everything and sees Matt Gargan pull a knife and trying to take out Donovan, and he sacrifices himself to tackle Matt Gargan, and he takes the knife in the shoulder, arm, bicep area, and basically they end up having the Scorpions got to run because the cops are on the way, and Donovan's very happy and proud of Lonnie doing what he needs to do and actually becoming a member of the 110th officially. At that, with him becoming a member of the 110th officially, they end up giving him a name. Like, oh, Gravedigger sounds cool. It's like, nah, the way you put that guy in the dirt, we should call you Tombstone. And he's really feeling that name. So we see the origin kind of coming into play. Parker and Nico, he ends up after the battle, he ends up going to meet up with her because they're supposed to go to the movies, and he makes it just barely on time, but he didn't invited Harry, which does not sit well with her because again, she's already been about the corporate types and all this other kind of stuff, so she feels some type of way. And this is a big thing. And I skipped a part. Let me go back real quick. Mikhail, Unicorn went kind of nuts, destroying everything, and she ended up using Mikhail as a more or less a tactic. She fired a full power blast freaking at Mikhail to basically take him out because she knew Spider-Man was going to save him, and he took the blast full force. And Mikhail was like, "Yo, that was enough. I didn't want to leave you here, but now you're doing too much." So he ends up taking the helmet off her, which stops her briefly, which allows Peter to get the upper hand, take her out, capture her, and Mikhail and her both get locked up. And he says, "We're even. This makes us even, but freaking, I will crush you if you ever cross paths again, because now we had to go rot in jail." Which is kind of like, okay, really, you can't. You were getting out, you were escaping. She decided to stay there and fight and cause a bunch of ruckus instead of escaping. But you're mad at Peter for protecting you and making sure that you're good. Like that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And it's just like you got morals, but your morals are just kind of freaking weird because you're willing to, sacrifice like your freedom to make sure that he didn't die. He didn't get hit by one of these blasts. Or she was going to squeeze him and then blow his head off with that, concussive blast. But he took the helmet off. So it's like, okay, you helped him out some of that, but then you threatened him right after just because he kind of talked to you. And granted, Spider-Man talked to everybody like, "Hey, we're cool." So that he could have just said, "Don't talk to me like we're cool. Like if we cross paths again, freaking, I won't be so nice." And could left it at that. But he's like, "No, I will straight up end you if we cross paths again." Like he was not playing. Like that was wild. So anyway, back to Parker Nico. Again, she's rubbed the wrong way because Harry's there, and you see she feels some way. She keeps grabbing her amulet. She's just like, "What is going on? It's okay. It's fine. Should be all right." And that's where the episode ends. So that's episode 3. Again, I think they're doing a great job with this series. Um, I really want to know if they're going to pull this all together and have this more or less a team ensemble, mainly Spider-Man leading thing, but we're going to start getting some of the characters, or are they just setting up for like season 2, season 3 for some of these other characters to get introduced? Because it seems like the main protagonist of this is not even going to be Otto Octavius. I'm really thinking it's going to be Lincoln. It's going to be Lonnie Lincoln becoming the Tombstone, having his whole arc. That's going to be a problem. Or it can be Otto Octavius if we want to save Lonnie Lincoln for the end, and more or less at the end of the series, he ends up becoming Tombstone or setting up to become Tombstone, and then have him as the main problem for the next season. You can do this either way, but that way I think the show is more or less about 10 to 12 episodes or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But again, I'm excited. I'm happy. This has been a great show so far. I've droned on long enough. So by all means, please make sure that you guys hit that little red subscribe button. Stay tuned. I want to hear in comments, what do you think? What kind of characters you think are going to show up? What things you think are going to happen? How's it going to transpire? Don't forget, we still got Carla Connors and stuff in play. There are several notable characters within this series, and they are going to make use of every single one at some point in time from what it looks like. So we just got to wait, catch it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.